we were able to pass legislation that dealt with cameras for our school buses on the arms of the school buses, and we have a lot of people that don't pay attention to our lights and safety for our children. But the regulations, my understanding is the agency is developing those. Do you know the timeline for those regulations to be promulgated?
You know what, I don't have the exact timeline, but we can get back to you on that. Okay. I do know we're working with school districts. As you know, school district budgets are very tight, and the extra cost of these cameras, we're trying to figure out a way. You know, we're going to help get it done, but there's some other discussions that are part of that.
Okay, I mean, just something that came up in conversation, so I wanted to see where we stood with that. So thank you. With Real ID, that is something that I get a lot of phone calls about in the office. I appreciate the information on the website because we can always send our folks there and get a little bit more information. My question was, having been on Appropriations a number of years, we've had the conversation as we led up to this with a lot of the discussion that you mentioned. The idea behind it was that the fee that would be charged on the license would be paying for the system, and that the fact that this wouldn't be an astronomical cost to the taxpayers to comply, that we would allow for those that wanted the ID to pay for extra, as it is, because I believe it's $60, a little over $60 that for a first-time ID.
We're charging $30, and it is an opt-in. You don't have to get a Real ID. You can
30 over the regular license renewal, correct? Okay.
Correct.
So, I'm sorry, 60 total.
Yes, yes.
So, okay. So, the ability for us, so I guess my question, and then looking at the budget, it's 29 million this year, and an additional, over 6 years, the $146 million. You just mentioned new buildings. My question is the original conversation we had was that the fee that would be charged would pay for this issue. It doesn't seem to be going that way since we have line items that are going over and above the fee that you're charging. Can you explain that?
Sure. So we had the decision whether to charge or not charge for this license. Some states are not charging. Many are charging. And then if we were going to charge, what would that fee be? We thought $30 was fair. It covers half of the costs. Again, as you mentioned, there's facility upgrades, there's personnel coming on board to help us with satisfying the number of people who want Real IDs. Over time, it is allowing us to upgrade all of our driver license centers, which we do need. We have over 24 that will be replaced. We have the rest that will be rehabbed. We're adding one in Chester County.
So all
of those upgrades needed to be done.
But that's not all
part of that is Real ID, and part of that is our regular system.
Okay, so that's a little bit of both.
And the personnel we're bringing on, I just want to assure you, will be dispersed into our system as well. They are not just coming on, are only doing Real ID things, and then we don't have other services that they can provide. As we increase our counters, as we decrease the time, I heard that over and over again last year, of people who come to our driver's license center, it's going to help us improve the entire system.
Well, 246 new employees for this. So I guess my question is also, there's my understanding the numbers are that there's about 2.5 million your estimate, because only about a quarter of the licensed individuals in our state will most likely, like I won't be asking for one. I have
anyone who has a passport and
passport card. I have a passport card. I don't need it, and I've even told people they're 10 years versus the length of time that you're paying for the license. But so we're dealing with, so we're going up with 246 new employees, 12 new buildings, all the reinforcements for 2.5 million people to get it the first time. After that, it is a renewal and there is no additional access. I guess to me it looks disproportionately expensive to get 2.5 million people what it is that they need. Can you account for the cost, the high cost that we're talking about, $150 million over 6 years?
Actually, we looked at it. It's a federal requirement, so we have to comply, right? We don't want to be a state that's not complying with the U.S. Department
and I
of
apologize because I'm running
Security.
out of time. Absolutely, but
a lot of the cost was because we had to condense it. There was a state law that prevented us from working on Real ID. If we could have worked on Real ID in our normal 4-year renewal, it would have been much less money.
But the ability for us, but the whole point was that when we figured out whether we were going to charge was to say as a user fee to have those individuals that wanted it to pay for it.
So the other
but you've
choice
made the
could have
decision
been
not to do that.
To charge $60, which would have meant it would have been $90 for somebody to get a real ID, and we thought that that was too high of a price.
So you made the decision to choose so that the rest of the taxpayers that don't want real ID will be paying for the fact that the individuals who do want real ID will get it.
They'll come, it'll be spread out in reduced times. Everyone will benefit from it. I wouldn't characterize it the way that you
How will
listed.
okay, can you tell me, how will I benefit? Because I'm not going to get one. How will I benefit from it?
There'll be improvements to all 71 driver license centers over the next 10 years. And there'll be reduced wait times. You'll be able to go in and go out, and the customer experience for every
But that doesn't have anything to do with real ID.
That has to do with our driver licensing center, yes.
Because some of the money
those who choose to go and get real ID will be able to do so, and those who choose to stay with their license will be able to do so.
Okay, because you combine them, so it's not separated out that just real ID individuals will be benefiting from this. This is the state. I guess what I'm saying is
Everyone who holds a driver license in Pennsylvania will benefit.
My folks that are coming in that don't want it are frustrated with the fact that they will be charged in their tax dollars for something that they're not using, and in all honesty, that they don't support.